Huh. Blindfolded Eigong. That actually sounds pretty doable. How bad could that be? Wonder why no one has done that yet. Okay, I'm not going to waste your time, so if you're just here to see the run, go ahead and skip to this timestamp on screen. However, I highly encourage you to watch the full video, not just because it gives me yummy watch time, that's cool too, but also because a lot of strategy, planning, and theory crafting went into this, and you will appreciate the run so much more when you understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Now, with that being said, where do we even start with this? While Eigong is widely considered the objective best boss in ninesols, she is also the most difficult, with what seems to be the most complex AI of the souls. Now, I know a bit about how Eigong works, but I'm gonna need some more information if I'm gonna see nothing but black. Now, I could brute force test it, but yeah. That's a lot of footage to record and sift through. I wonder if a modder could send me the code for her AI. It probably can't be that easy though. Oh, it is that easy. Well, it may not look like it, but these paragraphs of text are Eigong. It looks complicated, I know, but all it is the move, what phase it appears, what move it strings into, and the odds of it stringing into that move. Interestingly, this text doesn't account for patterns that show up in gameplay, but it gives us a good starting point on what moves we can expect when we know a specific move is happening. Just in case you're unfamiliar with the moves, here's a quick rundown of some of the accepted names the community has come up with. Slow Start, Cross Up, Pokes, Talisman, Crimson Ball, Crimson Slam, Delayed Slash, Windblade, Crimson and Delayed variations, Talisman, Spike and Geyser variations, Judgment Card, Crimson and White variations, Windblade, Judgment variation. So we know how the moves relate to each other, but how are we going to tell what move is what when we can't see? Well, if we were deaf, it'd be a problem, but we're only blind, so we still have... Almost every single move in Eigong's toolkit has a distinct sound cue before the move lands. In fact, only two moves are completely silent before the attack lands: Slow Start and Pokes. Pokes is pretty simple to deal with. It exclusively strings from Cross Up and Slow Start. And the randomness of there being 2 or 3 pokes isn't an issue because you aren't punished for missing the third parry when it's just 2 pokes. Slow Start, on the other hand, is a bit more complicated. Slow Start will often happen after a string has ended, and can sometimes have long moments where Eigong is standing still, throwing off any timing we could use to unbound a counter. We can spam parry while grounded, and guarantee that we don't get hit and just take some internal for the first swing. This does add directionality to the attack, so we have to keep track of her position throughout the run. The only way we can avoid directionality without worrying about timing would be to spam air parry before the attack. However, this introduces a tiny window where we can get hit while also being mechanically quite difficult with only sound as a guide. We'll have to think about this more later. For now, let's move on to the other attacks. Cross Up is a godsend. It has a clear cue when it strings from another attack, and has an even more noticeable cue when it's the first attack in the string. On top of that, Cross Up gives a great window to pull off a Talisman, even without the effects of the Steely Jade. Delayed Slash is a bit of a reaction check unless it strings from Crimson Slam, in which case we can get a free inbound encounter. There's not much we can do about it, we just have to be ready for it. Now, the Crimson attacks are tricky. They all have the same sound cue that varies ever so slightly depending on the move. I'm gonna give you 10 of the 3 sound cues at random. Let's see if you can figure out the order. Feel free to comment what you think it is. No cheating though. Now, the more perceptive of you might be thinking, Adorn, there were like 5 different sound cues, not 3. And you would be correct. Eigong's Talisman has 3 slightly different sounds for the same attack. No teleporting noise is called Quick Fu in the files and strings directly from Cross Up. 2 quick teleports is the most common Talisman attack, and it may be slightly delayed for variation. For Crimson Ball, it's a bit hard to tell, but the Crimson noise overlaps the teleporting noise. Slam is the most dangerous. There's only 1 teleport noise and the attack follows very quickly after the Crimson sound. However, it can only have a chance of occurring in 2 specific instances, after a cross-up and after Tai Chi kicking Eigong's Talisman. So, we can eliminate one of these instances happening by either canceling her Talisman or not Tai Chi kicking it in the first place and just jumping over. Originally, all the Crimson attacks were dealt with simultaneously by doing a weird dash jump Talisman combo and abusing the Steely Jade. But this had 2 problems. First, it required Chi, which left you a sitting duck if they happened twice in a row. Second, it required an additional input of jump dashing after Crimson Ball to not die immediately to the fire. In the end, listening for the right sound cue was far more reliable and a lot easier than expected. Whew. That was a lot to take in. But that's everything for Phase 1. We've still got to worry about Phase 2 doesn't change too much about the fight, but there are more moves to worry about. For starters, Pokes now has a chance of stringing into Crimson Slam, so that's something to keep in mind. Pokes can also be a starter move using the same sound as starter cross-up. However, this chance is much lower than cross-up. Crimson Slam will no longer be guaranteed to follow with a delayed slash, and will semi-alternate between it and slipping back. Additionally, upon unbounded countering a Crimson attack, Eigong will semi-alternate between doing nothing and retaliating with a delayed slash. Talisman becomes even more complicated, as upon Tai Chi kicking it, 2 additional combos will appear. The first, Spike, gives a faint clicking noise before the slash. The second, Geyser, doesn't give any cue, which can get it confused with Crimson Slam. However, we can guarantee that we get the Spike combo by using the wise level 0 strats of just not Tai Chi kicking it and jumping over it. This gives a consistent strategy of talismaning through it when we have Chi, or double jumping to get a free unbounded counter. As for Windblade, the sound cue is very clear, so as long as we have the timing down, it can be breezed through. The only thing of note is that the two Windblade variations alternate between each other, so we'll need to keep track of the last attack that was used. Moving on to Phase 3, the gameplay is almost entirely centered around the new move, Judgment Cut. Other than that, Crimson Slam will no longer appear as its own attack, and the retaliation to unbounded counters will be Crimson Judgment Cuts. Both Judgment Cut variations play this sound cue before the attack. You might be wondering how I'll be able to tell which variation will happen. Well, as it turns out, Judgment Cut has specific rules on when it will be Crimson. Crimson Judgment Cuts can only occur at the start of the phase, from every 3 Windblades starting with the first one in the phase, and from retaliations to unbounded counters. It's important to know this because we don't want to use double jump on every single Judgment Cut. We want to preserve it for when the delayed slash or talisman shortly follows it. Using this strategy will make the attack super consistent, but unfortunately, we won't have anything to do if a delayed slash happens. This isn't a big issue since it's much less likely to happen compared to the talisman, and we can get a little bit more damage in with some Shadowhunter arrows. With all of that being said, we now have somewhat of a plan for every single attack that Eigong could throw at us. Now, we just need to think about what we will use for our... As we think about what build we want to use, we need to consider a few factors. What will give us the most consistency? What will output the most damage in a single burst? And what is the least difficult to perform? We value consistency most of all, as there is a much better chance of getting a clear if we eliminate as much uncertainty as possible. The other 2 factors tie into this idea of consistency. Doing damage in a single burst as opposed to death by 1,000 cuts will help us consolidate our progress and focus on parrying attacks. And reducing mechanical difficulty will overall reduce inputs that are required, leaving more room for deciphering Eigong's pattern. Knowing all this, you know I have to use my beloved talisman style, Full Control. But I'm not just doing this to glaze Full Control. There are a lot of good reasons why Full Control specifically will give us much more mileage compared to the other 2. Full Control allows us to roughly measure Eigong's health based on how many 5-charge talismans we get off. Assuming no internal damage, it takes about 8 for Phase 1 and 3, and 13 for Phase 2. On top of that, each 5-charge gives us a complete reset on Eigong due to stunning her. Other talisman styles like Chi Blast and Water Flow, while having the ability to stun Eigong occasionally, do not do it every single time like Full Control does. And with Water Flow, a significant portion of its damage output is unusable since we can't use slashes as effectively. And while Chi Blast would be a good contender for damage with arrows, if we don't stun Eigong with a talisman, we lose consistency from the possibility of having to parry any upcoming attack. We might not know the timing or which direction, so this makes Chi Blast unreliable. The majority of the time, Eigong will start with Slow Start after being stunned. This would normally be a problem due to the talismans essentially flipping the direction that she is in. But, as the wise tactician Sun Tzu once said, you don't need to worry about the direction if you just know where your enemy is, you fool, you idiot. Basically, we can use the panning of where the talisman blew up to determine where Eigong is, and thus where to parry. This may seem obvious, but this one strategy immediately skyrocketed my results to the point that I was confident to not use auto heal for practice within a day. As for Jades, we'll pick ones that complement Full Control while maintaining our guideline of consistency. The Steely Jade will allow us to use our talisman pretty much whenever we want without worrying about getting interrupted by damage. And combine that with the fact that the effect is significantly more effective with Full Control's long casting time, and we are essentially immortal whenever we use a talisman. The Chi Swipe Jade will complement this even further by only requiring at most 3 precise parries to have enough Chi for a 5-charge Full Control. Both Steely and Chi Swipe will produce internal damage from their effects, which can be deadly. So, to offset this, we can use the Reciprocation Jade to heal back that internal damage while offloading some of it onto Eigong. And since we want to be using Unbounded Counter a lot anyway because it's broken, but also due to its consistency, we can slot in the Divine Hand Jade to deal insane damage on any multi-hit move that happens. We technically have one last slot, but none of the one-slot Jades are particularly useful for this challenge. So I just slotted Soul Reaper because it's funny, because it's bad, With all that being said, and almost every outcome accounted for, I think we're ready. This is true Eigong, blindfolded.
Holy shit. Let's go! Holy shit. It's just that easy. It's just that easy. What the fuck? Holy shit. Oh my god. Damn. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I wasn't expecting to get this so soon. It's fucking awesome.